Every parent dreads hearing the comment, "It's not fair. His ice cream is bigger. She gets all the attention. Why did you say yes to him and no to me? It's not fair." And it doesn't stop with children, does it? Adults often feel they're being overlooked or taken advantage of too. For example, in Jesus' parable of the 11th hour workers, the men who worked all day for a denarius immediately complained when the master gave those who showed up later the same pay. And the parable of the prodigal son, the older brother immediately got angry when the father threw a party for the younger brother. And when Jesus told Peter that he would suffer in his old age, Peter immediately looked over at his cousin John and asked Jesus, "What's going to happen to him?" It's funny, isn't it? We seem to be born with an urge to compare ourselves with others and a desire for things to be fair. The challenge, of course, is our personal concept of what is fair can often be skewed. So we need to calibrate our personal intuition to Jehovah's thinking. And a good place to start is with our decisions. For example, when we're arranging a social gathering or choosing a friend, asking someone to work with us in the ministry, we have to inevitably include some and exclude others. Or if we make an assignment, if we're recommending a ministerial servant, or even selecting a territory to work in, we're making judgments about people. So how can we be fair? Well, let's briefly consider 4 scriptural suggestions. Number 1, always pray first. We certainly need Jehovah's help when making decisions. He can see into the heart, as he told Samuel, so he can help us to see things as they really are. In James 3:17, it lists impartial as one of the characteristics of godly wisdom. So if we ask Jehovah for his Spirit, he can help us to be fair. Number 2, analyze your attitude. Our attitude, frankly, can sometimes be a problem. The Watchtower of November 15, 1996 said this, "Without realizing it, we may carry attitudes that were rooted in our family, racial, and national backgrounds. These seemingly mild inclinations are often deep-seated and promote attitudes that sometimes lead us to be partial." How true. So what can we do to uproot or at least bypass some of these deep-seated prejudices? Love. Love for Jehovah, love for our brothers is the key. It's God's expansive love, after all, his desire to look beyond what we are now and see what we can become, that is the basis for his fairness. And principled love can do that for us too. Notice, for example, at 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 5 and 8, how the Apostle Paul's love for his brothers helped him to avoid bias and favoritism. Verse 5 says, "In fact, you know that we never used flattering speech or put on any false front with greedy motives. God is witness." Verse 8, "Having tender affection for you, we were determined to impart to you not only the good news of God, but also our very selves, because you became so beloved to us." Well, like Paul, we would never flatter people or put on a false front just because we want something from them, would we? No, we're sincerely interested in people, in their personality, in their culture, in their background, in their faithfulness, their integrity, their spirituality. Because we love people, any differences quickly pale into insignificance once we become friends. And that helps us to be fair. Number 3, consider the process. We can't see into people's hearts as Jehovah does, so we can never really be sure what someone's motives are. How then can we be objective? Well, ask yourself, do I have all the facts? Are my sources objective? Is there another way I could look at this? And then, as our Watchtower comments for today suggest, it really helps to consult with others when making decisions. Proverbs 24:12 says that Jehovah repays each one according to his activity. And of Jesus, Matthew 16:27 says that Jesus repays each one according to his behavior. So if we pay more attention to what people are doing than to trying to figure out why they might be doing it, it can help us to be fair when making decisions. And finally, 4, review the results. Be open to feedback. Try not to be oversensitive. At 1 Timothy 5:21, Paul reminded Timothy that as a representative of the governing body, his decisions would be reviewed by the highest of authorities. Notice what he says here in verse 21. I solemnly charge you before God and Christ Jesus and the chosen angels to observe these instructions without any prejudice or partiality. Now that's a lot of pressure. But feedback like this helps us to improve. In fact, the more transparent a decision is, often the more easy it is for people to accept it. Now, of course, fair is not always equal. In fact, equal is not always fair. The Watchtower of June 1st, 1962 said this: one may have preferences, and there's nothing wrong with that, since even Jesus had preferences. The 12 apostles were preferred by Jesus to the rest of the disciples. But even of these, Jesus preferred 3, Peter, James, and John. And of these 3, one was Jesus' favorite, the beloved apostle John. So Jesus didn't treat everyone equal, and yet, like Jehovah, he was always fair. Insight on the Scriptures says, impartiality sees that all are treated not equally, but according to what each deserves and needs. Now that's reasonable, and that's an achievable goal. That's what we learn from Bible principles. In conclusion then, brothers, while humans seem to be born with an innate sense of fairness, it certainly has to be trained. And when it's hard to be fair, we need to rely on Jehovah's Spirit and let love for others temper our emotions. Jehovah notices what we do, and he certainly appreciates it when we try to be fair.